Linda looked at her divorce settlement papers and saw numbers that made her sick. $12,000 in retirement savings at age 45. While her husband had built wealth for 2 decades, Linda had nothing in her name because she trusted him to handle the money. Her wake-up call wasn't just about divorce, it was about discovering that 20 years of financial dependence had left her unprepared for life. Her journey from money ignorance to financial literacy shows every woman why you can't afford to stay out of your own finances. See, we think letting someone else handle the money is about trust, about partnership, about playing to each other's strengths. But what I learned from Linda's story is that financial ignorance isn't protection. It's vulnerability. When you don't understand your own financial situation, you're not being taken care of. You're being controlled. Linda thought she was lucky to have a husband who handled all the complicated money stuff. But when divorce forced her to face financial reality, she discovered that 20 years of financial dependence had left her financially defenseless. Let me tell you about Linda Martinez from San Antonio. She's 45 years old, married to Richard for 18 years, mother to 2 kids, Sophia, 16, and Carlos, 13. For nearly 2 decades, Linda lived what she thought was a financial fairy tale. Linda met Richard when she was 27, working as a dental hygienist making decent money. Richard was an accountant with a finance degree, 5 years older, and seemed to have everything figured out financially. When they married, Richard naturally took over their finances. He was so good with money, Linda tells me. He had spreadsheets, investment accounts, retirement plans. I was just grateful that someone else could handle all that complicated stuff. I thought I was lucky. Linda describes how gradually she handed over all financial control. Richard managed their bank accounts, paid all bills, made investment decisions, handled taxes, even chose their insurance. Linda's paychecks went into their account, but Richard controlled how money was spent. I thought it was partnership, Linda says. He was good at money, I was good at everything else. I handled the kids, the house, the social calendar, he handled the finances. It seemed like a fair division of labor, but what Linda didn't realize was that handling the finances meant she was completely excluded from financial decisions about her own life. She didn't know how much money they had, where it was invested, or what their financial goals were. I knew we were comfortable, Linda explains. Richard bought nice things, we took family vacations, the kids had what they needed. I assumed he was building our future together. The wake-up call came when Linda discovered Richard's affair and filed for divorce. Suddenly, she needed to understand finances that had been hidden from her for 18 years. My divorce attorney asked me basic questions that I couldn't answer, Linda recalls. What's your household income? What retirement accounts do you have? What's your credit score? I felt like an idiot saying I don't know to everything. The financial discovery process revealed shocking truths. Richard had been hiding money in accounts Linda didn't know existed, making investment decisions that benefited him individually, and controlling their finances in ways that left Linda with almost nothing in her name. The retirement accounts were the worst shock, Linda says. Richard had $340,000 in his 401k and investment accounts. I had $12,000 in an old retirement account from before we married. For 18 years, while he was building wealth, I was building nothing. Linda discovered that Richard had systematically excluded her from wealth-building opportunities. He maxed out his retirement contributions, but never encouraged her to do the same. He put investment accounts in his name only. He even had a separate savings account Linda never knew about. I realized that while I thought we were building a life together, he was building financial security for himself and leaving me dependent on his generosity. The scariest moment came when Linda's attorney explained her financial reality. At 45, with minimal retirement savings and no financial literacy, Linda was looking at potentially working until she died or living in poverty during retirement. The divorce proceedings forced Linda to confront not just her financial ignorance, but her shame about money. I felt so stupid, Linda tells me. Here I am, 45 years old, college educated, and I don't know how credit cards work, what compound interest means, or how to read an investment statement. I felt like a financial child. Linda's shame deepened when she realized how her financial dependence had affected major life decisions. She'd stayed in jobs she didn't love because she thought her income didn't matter. She'd never negotiated salary increases because Richard said they didn't need the money. She'd never built credit in her name because Richard handled all purchases. I started understanding that my financial ignorance wasn't just about money, it was about power. Richard controlled our finances, which meant he controlled our choices, our lifestyle, our future. I had given up financial autonomy without even realizing it. The shame was paralyzing. Linda avoided opening mail from banks, ignored calls from financial advisors, and felt overwhelmed by basic financial tasks like budgeting or comparing insurance plans. I was afraid to make financial decisions because I was afraid of making mistakes, but I didn't realize that not making decisions was the biggest mistake of all. That's when Linda called me. When Linda called me, I heard something I recognized, the voice of someone who had confused financial dependence with financial security. Linda, I told her, you're not stupid about money, you're uneducated about money, and there's a big difference. Stupid can't be fixed, uneducated can be. I shared with her something I learned from my own financial journey. Financial literacy isn't just about numbers, it's about freedom. When you understand money, you control your choices. When you don't understand money, money controls your choices. But I also understood her shame. You trusted your partner to handle finances because you thought that was love. But financial partnership means both people understand the decisions being made with their money, not one person making decisions for both people. I explained to Linda the difference between financial cooperation and financial control. In healthy financial partnerships, both people are educated about money. Both people participate in major decisions, and both people build individual financial security alongside shared financial goals. Linda asked me how she could possibly learn 20 years of financial education while dealing with divorce stress. I told her, you don't need to become a financial expert overnight. You need to become financially literate enough to make informed decisions about your own life. Over the next 6 months, Linda and I worked together on what I call financial empowerment recovery, building financial literacy and independence from a foundation of financial dependence. First, we addressed her immediate financial survival. Linda needed to understand her divorce settlement, create a post-divorce budget, and establish financial accounts in her name. You can't build financial security until you understand your current financial reality. Linda enrolled in financial literacy courses, started reading personal finance books, and joined online communities for women learning about money. It was overwhelming at first, but she committed to learning one new financial concept each week. Second, we worked on overcoming her money shame. Your financial ignorance wasn't a character flaw. It was a result of a system that excluded you from financial decisions. Now you get to change that system. Linda started tracking her spending, building a credit history in her name, and setting financial goals for the first time in her adult life. Third, we focused on building wealth for her future. At 45, you have 20+ years to build retirement security. That's enough time to create financial independence if you start now and stay consistent. 18 months after her divorce, Linda achieved something she never thought possible. She felt confident making financial decisions. I opened my first investment account, Linda says. I researched different options, compared fees, understood the risks. For the first time in my adult life, I made a major financial decision based on my own knowledge, not someone else's advice. The breakthrough came when Linda's teenage daughter asked her about college financing. Instead of saying, ask your father, Linda was able to explain different funding options, scholarship opportunities, and long-term education investment strategies. That's when I realized I wasn't just learning about money for me. I was modeling financial literacy for my children. I was showing them that women can and should understand their own finances. Within 2 years, Linda had built an emergency fund covering 6 months of expenses, increased her retirement contributions to 15% of her income, purchased disability insurance to protect her earning ability, started a college fund for her younger child, bought a smaller house that she could afford independently, built a credit score above 750. Most importantly, Linda started helping other women facing similar financial awakenings, volunteering with divorce support groups to teach basic financial literacy. What Linda taught me through her financial awakening is that financial literacy isn't just about money. It's about self-respect, security, and freedom. Here's what every woman needs to know about financial independence. First, financial dependence is not the same as financial partnership. In healthy relationships, both people understand their finances, participate in major decisions, and build individual security alongside shared goals. Second, you cannot afford to be ignorant about your own money. Whether you're married, single, or divorced, you need to understand your income, expenses, debts, assets, and financial goals. Third, Financial literacy is a learnable skill, not an inherited talent. You don't need to be naturally good with numbers. You need to be willing to educate yourself about money management. Fourth, starting late is better than never starting. At any age, you can begin building financial security. The key is starting with where you are and being consistent with your efforts. Fifth, financial shame keeps you financially stuck. Instead of feeling embarrassed about what you don't know, focus on learning what you need to know for your future security. Six, your children are watching how you handle money. When you model financial literacy and independence, you're teaching them that financial knowledge is important for everyone. Seventh, emergency funds aren't just about emergencies. They're about options. When you have money saved, you can make choices based on what's best for you, not what you can afford. If you're financially dependent on someone else right now, remember what Linda learned. Financial education is an investment in your freedom. Every dollar you understand, every financial skill you develop, every investment decision you make is building security that no one can take away from you. Your financial ignorance isn't protecting you. It's making you vulnerable. But your financial education can become your superpower. Linda went from having $12,000 in retirement savings at 45 to having over $80,000 in investments by 47. She went from asking permission to spend money to confidently managing her own financial portfolio. But more than the money, Linda gained something priceless: the knowledge that she can take care of herself financially, that her future security depends on her own decisions, not someone else's generosity. That's not just financial literacy, that's financial freedom. Remember this: your money is your responsibility, your security is your priority, and your financial education is your insurance policy against financial vulnerability. Linda's story proves that it's never too late to take control of your financial future. The best time to start was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. Y'all remember that. Your financial independence isn't just about money. It's about the confidence that comes from knowing you can take care of yourself no matter what life brings your way.